Engineers want feedback that help them grow. They want advice about system design, architectural decisions, technical leadership. But sometimes the feedback can sound like this. Please communicate earlier. Please follow through. Or please show up on time. And that can feel frustrating. But the reality is, if the professional basics aren't solid, that's where the feedback will stay. Not because managers want to nitpick, but because reliability comes first. This particular topic is not an easy one to share, but it's an important one to share because this type of feedback isn't always delivered well, and it's not even always delivered because it can be uncomfortable. When a manager has to remind someone about how they communicate, how they show up, when they show up, it does tend to feel like a personal attack. Every manager is making a quiet assessment, not just about your technical ability, but about your professional reliability. They're asking questions like, can I trust this person to follow through? Will they communicate when something goes wrong? Will they show up prepared? Because before someone can grow into larger responsibilities, they have to demonstrate consistency. You don't build advanced engineering skills on top of unreliable foundation. There are a handful of fundamentals that remove friction from your work. They're not glamorous, but they make a huge difference. Reliability. Reliability means doing what you say you'll do. Showing up on time to meetings, meeting commitments when you can, and communicating early if you can't meet commitments or if something slips. Things will go wrong. That's normal. What matters is whether people find out about problems early or after the damage is already done. Reliable engineers make people's work easier. Communication. Good engineers communicate. Great engineers communicate before they're asked. That can be simple things like providing updates on work, letting people know when something is blocked, following up when something needs attention. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty forces your manager to spend time tracking you down instead of helping you grow. Ownership. Ownership is about closing loops. If you take something on, people should feel confident that it'll get done. This doesn't mean you never need help, but it does mean you don't disappear when something gets complicated, you ask questions early, you stay engaged until the work is complete. Ownership builds trust faster than almost anything else. Self-awareness. Self-awareness shows up in small ways. How you respond to feedback. We've talked about this. How you participate in meetings. We haven't talked about that. How you collaborate with teammates. Sometimes the most valuable question you can ask yourself is, how am I showing up right now? Because professionalism is often about awareness, not just effort. Presence. Presence doesn't mean talking the most. In fact, I used to think that my opinion mattered more than anyone else's on the team. And in fact, I had a product manager that I worked with who was amazing. And she was not afraid to mute me if I did not know when to stop. She finally talked to me one-on-one. Other engineers on the team talked to me one-on-one and let me know in a very nice way, Bob, you're making your point. You don't have to keep going on. We understand where you're coming from, but sometimes we don't agree. And talking more is not going to change that. And that was a big thing for me to swallow my pride and gain some humility and learn to understand my presence when I'm in a meeting and know when I've said what I need to say and know when to stop talking and know when to not even start talking. Those are important parts. That doesn't mean don't participate. It means participate constructively. It means being engaged. It means contributing when it matters. There's a saying of some people speak because they have something to say, and some people speak because they have to say something. Make sure that when you are contributing, it is increasing the value of that particular meeting. Avoid visible frustration. If you're frustrated with what's going on in a meeting, rest your face. Let your face be the calm water on top of all the turmoil underneath. It happens a lot when we're having technical discussions. If you are more technically advanced than someone on your team, you may be getting frustrated with having someone else have to take a little bit extra time to get up to speed on something. If you are not as technically advanced as someone on the team, it may be very frustrating if it feels like everyone's talking over your head. You can be authentic. You can pause and you can stop and you can say, can I get some time to have this explained to me later? Or you can pause and you can stop and you can say, if there's someone on the team that doesn't completely understand, is there a time that we could get together to discuss this further, to erase your doubts? Or do we have to have this understood before we can move forward? And if the answer is yes, then definitely swallow that frustration, because you want everyone on the team to feel technically sure about what's going to be going on in the future. These are all parts of having presence. Understanding, reading the room is another word for it. Professionalism means channeling when you are frustrated in a positive way. You can think very, very deeply and you can be passionate about your work. Channel it in a positive direction. Why do these basics matter? Managers tend to place engineers into one of two mental categories. The first group is reliable professionals. These are engineers who follow through, they communicate clearly, they handle the basics well, and managers look at these engineers and they think, that's someone I can invest in. This person is ready for more responsibility, and this is someone who I can trust to get the work done or to let me know if there's a blocker to the work. The second group is high maintenance. These engineers might be technically capable, but their manager has to keep reminding them about communication, attendance, or follow through. And that consumes attention. That will make a manager think more about how can I get this person up to professional standards for the company versus how can I grow this person into the next level. If your manager is spending time reminding you about the basics, they can't spend time helping you grow. When the professional fundamentals are solid, something interesting happens. The feedback shifts. Instead of hearing please communicate earlier or please follow through, you start hearing things like, let's talk about your system design, or let's talk about your influence, or let's talk about leadership. That's the kind of feedback that moves careers forward. Professional discipline creates the space for real growth. Professional basics are difficult to talk about sometimes, because the very things that make feedback important, or the very things that made feedback difficult, are when it feels like a personal attack. And if I am someone who shows up late, who doesn't show up often, when my manager has to give me that kind of feedback, it feels like that manager will even think this is going to feel like a personal attack, and they may hold back, and that will hold me back. Professional basics aren't glamorous, but they're powerful. Reliability, communication, ownership, self-awareness. When those are handled well, people trust you with bigger challenges, and that's where the real growth begins. If you found this video helpful, consider liking the video and subscribing. Always remember the ABCs of coding always be coding, and sometimes always be consistent with your professional basics. Thanks, y'all.